Hey everyone, are we live? Can anyone see me? Okay, all right. So we had Rocky on, we were talking, and he's frozen. So I sent him an email and we're gonna see what happens. Just to introduce myself, my name is Valerie Anderson. I am the Policy and Legislation Chair for the Pine Lily chapter of the Florida Native Plant Society. Thank you for voting me back in for the next few years. So I am not sure he was ready. I don't know when he's coming back. So I mean, I could play my flute or we could discuss native plants. We can see part of his presentation if we switch over to the Zoom meeting. But as you can see, he's completely frozen. So if you will hold, I'm going to put it back to a black screen while I see if I can get him back. So if you'll please be patient, just to hang on, and I'm still here, just trying to figure out how we can get him back. So just thank you.
Oh, so you've already done an intro, huh? Okay, I guess you guys can see me. I'm Rocky Milburn. I'm from the Tampa Bay area. But currently, I'm in Atlanta, in the former lands of Tishy Indians. Used to be occupied by those folks, and we ran them off, and now we control their territory. So I'm a birder. I don't know a lot about native plants, but I want to learn more, and I have a lot of friends that are native plant folks. But I know how the two interact together, and I know how the birds need the flowers, and I know how the flowers need the birds. So I got some pictures of birds and how of them interacting and how the Florida habitat helps birds. So this is a typical Florida habitat right there. Water, live oak trees, swamps. Now my friends up north call it dirty old murky swamps, but all this water is spread by springs, so it's good water. Here's a bird that doesn't nest in Florida. It's an American redstar. Now, how does Florida help this bird? This bird spends its winter in South America, in Argentina and Brazil. It nests in the upper reaches of the Adirondack Mountains. But he's got to have somewhere to stop and eat and feed on his way, in his migration, on his 1,000-mile journey. And that's Florida. And there's another view of a red star. I'm totally encapsulated by migratory birds, how they come through, use our habitat, and then go on. There's the female of the same bird. So you can see down in the bottom of this here, this is where this bird spends the winter. And this is where it nests, and it's up here. But it comes through here in mass by the thousands and uses our flowers to feed on in our habitat. This is another bird, cerulean, where this bird spends the winter in the Andes Mountains. Comes through Florida and nests in upper reaches of Maine, all the way over to Minnesota. This bird, you can see where he spends his winter, and you can see my cursor, he nests up there. But see where he goes? Right through Florida. Now, we'll talk about this later. You notice you don't see a lot of birds coming through here, Mexico, and Texas. And I'm going to ask you, but don't answer now, why do you think that is? There's another bird, chestnut-sided warbler, that nests in the big conifers. What a beautiful bird. It looks painted, doesn't it? What a beautiful bird. And Central America, flies over the Gulf. A few go up the Mexican coast and see where he nests. And again, they don't migrate over towards Mexico. They prefer going over Florida. There's another yellow warbler. And they go all over the country. They pretty well follow the coast, and they can nest all the way up in Alaska, up into Canada, go across the Gulf of Mexico, but they spend their winters South America. Now this bird nests in Florida. This is a northern parallel warbler. He's 4 inches long. He spends his winters in South America, but he nests in Florida. He likes woodland swamps. He nests high in the trees, beautiful song, and he's one of the first birds we get in the spring, and he ends every song with a zip. He'll go to here, zip, 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 but he always ends at a zip. And the young people I take out, the 5th graders we take out, they call him the zipper bird. But he's only 4 inches, and you can hear him a half a mile away. There he is singing that beautiful song. And you can see where he spends his winters, but he also nests from about where my cursor is up northern. Here's another typical view. This happens to be Blackwater Creek. This is in the lower green swamp, which is north of Lakeland. This part of it happens to be in Hillsborough County. This plot of land is 23,000 acres. Oh, by the way, the Florida Department of Transportation, they want to put a highway through this. And you extend it to the northern reaches of the Lakeland bypass. Here's another bird that nests here, uses our native plants. This bird is a prothonotary warbler, likes to nest in cypress tree holes. Always nests near water. It's a cavity nester. So it uses all of our native cypress trees to nest. If there's not trees in the water with holes in them, which we cut down so many cypress trees, they won't nest here. They'll move on. Beautiful bird. And there he is in a cypress tree nesting home. They nest in Central Florida. They nest in Orlando. They nest in Tampa Bay. And you can map where he spends his winter and up above the Gulf. But most of the birds come down through the West Indies. A lot of them don't go through Mexico. Ruby-throated hummingbird. We have hummingbirds at our house in Tampa year round. And we've got firebush planted, candy corn, not a native, and we have native porterweed by the tons, firebush by the ton. So we have 2 or 3 hummingbirds all the time year round by planting our yard for those birds. Plus, we also get the birds that migrate through. People say, well, when am I going to get hummingbirds in Florida? If you do the right kind of native plantings, you can get them year round, especially in Orlando. That's the male ruby throat. That's the female. Actually, that's a young male. You can see the little specks starting to come in. So that would probably be a young male. And these are the feeders we have. We have them all over the place at the house. I think we've got about 6 out. My room that I work from home on, I can look out my window and I see hummingbirds. But we plant our yard for the hummingbirds and butterflies. And where the hummingbird spends its winter, and it spends some winter in Florida, but it goes all over the whole United States, and it funnels through Texas and Florida. And here's another habitat that you see all over Florida. This is a shallow lake. This may have been a phosphate lake. I'm not really sure. This is a county conservation site, and you can see the black-bellied whistling ducks using this natural habitat. Oops, didn't want to do that yet. Okay. So we have these countless lakes all over Florida with all the native plants. You can see there's black willows, there's some pine trees in the background, there's some big cypress to the left. And this is probably my favorite bird right here. This is a roseate spoonbill. In fact, I used to work for Audubon, and that was my project, was the roseate spoonbill study. And the roseate spoonbill just got in really bad shape because all of its habitat was destroyed because of all the pollution and all the water. And in Florida Bay, the roseate spoonbill is doing very, very bad. It's doing good in Tampa Bay. Orlando's Wetland Park has a colony. And actually, the Gator Farm has got a good colony. Spoonbills like to nest on freshwater islands or coastal islands. And so that's why it's so important that we protect those islands. But we need to protect the alligators too, because if there's a lake and it has an island and there's no gator in that lake, the spoonbill will not nest there. And the reason is the gator keeps the raccoons from swimming out and getting their eggs. So that's why the Gator Farm has a lot of spoonbills. But there's lakes islands, perfect islands for spoonbills to nest on, but they won't nest if they don't have a gator in the lake. This bird here was banded in 2006, April 6, 2006, and it was one of 2 babies in this nest. Now, this picture was taken in 2016. We've done a lot of protecting its natural habitat. So this bird is 10 years old. So birds and spoonbills in the wild live about 10 years old, and they live about 15 or so in captivity. So this bird was 10 years old. So that's pretty cool that we was able to track that bird. And he was banded at Alphi Banks in the Tampa Bay area. And here's another bird that benefits a lot from our native plants. I can't hear anybody, but does anybody think they know what this is? This is you know what it is? The lunatic's going to tell us.
It's a Chuck Will's widow.
It is a Chuck Will's widow.
What do you do?
He says, Will widow, but if you listen real carefully and you hear him, you can hear the Chuck. They have bright red eyes. You can get them at night, and they like in lowland swamps. Now, if you get in the north part of Florida in the hills, you'll get a whippoorwill. Now, you can get whippoorwills here in migration. They eat insects, but they're kind of cool birds. Hard to find, because look at that camouflage color. And there's where he spends the winter, and there's his nesting territory. Wow, everybody ever seen one of those? You guys can raise your hand. Anybody know what that is? It's one of my favorites. Scarlet Tanager. Likes to eat native berries. He likes beauty berry. I know everybody's got beauty berry, one of my favorites. Likes beauty berry. Will eat poison ivy berries, but he also does something else that he likes that's bad. There's another berry he eats that's really bad. How about Brazilian pepper? He likes Brazilian peppers. And then he poops out the seeds and plants those invasive plants all over Florida. But this bird just migrates through. They've actually found some Brazilian peppers tried to sprout out of Florida, and they think it come from one of these birds, but the plant won't live north of here. So when I lived in Tennessee, the Scarlet Tangerine nests above 700 feet elevation. So my house was 720 feet, and I had Scarlet Tangerines nested in my house, but some of my friends down the road didn't. So they love the Florida berries. Up north, they'll eat holly berries. They eat holly berries here. They eat elderberry. They like berries. And all the native berries, we planted holly trees up north and elderberry for the Scarlet Tangerines. And there he is again. This picture was taken at Fort DeSoto during migration. I was about 4 foot from this bird. Just flew across the Gulf of Mexico, 550 mile. and exhausted. I don't know what this plant is here. So there's the female. There's a Scarlet Tangerine young one about to get the red. And you can see where he spends his winter, and this is where he nests mostly above 700 feet elevation. You can see these little gaps. There's Middle Tennessee where they don't nest, but outside of Middle Tennessee they do. Now this is a yellow-throated warbler. This bird nests in Florida, but also is a year-round. They're an insect eater, and they eat berries. They love all the native, they like coffee beans, you know, coffee berries, beautyberry. So that's another reason to plant all these native plants in your yard for this bird. Now this bird nests all over the eastern United States, but also nests in Florida. And they will stay here year-round in some winters. Very beautiful, bright yellow. You can see where he goes. And this is one of our terns. And what can we do to help the terns? You know, we native plants, you know, beautyberry, how does that help these? Well, beautyberry doesn't. Let me back up. The terns need native landscape, native shores, and they're endangered of being, we have got a major concern because of sea level rise, what that natural habitat is going to do to these birds. Hillsborough County has a lot of land that they bought for bird refuge, but we think those refuges are going to be underwater. The colonies of the nest on the east and the west coast of Florida, same problem. Those birds nest on the edge of the water. And then with the human intervention and then the sea level rise, we've got to do more to plant native habitats for these birds to nest. These are fish eaters. They dive. I don't know if you've all seen them when you go to the beach. And, oh, everybody knows what this is. This is the Florida Scubdray. It's been nominated for the state bird probably 6 or 8 times since I've been in Florida, and I've been in Florida over 20 years. But the developers don't want this to be the state bird, because if it's made the state bird, if they got a housing development, they can't touch it. So that's why we still have the mockingbird. But its habitat is very critical. It likes barren sand spots, scrub oak, doesn't like big trees, and it is endemic bird of Florida. You can only find it in Central Florida and South. They're in Orlando. If you go to, they're all over the place. There's only 3 birds in Hillsborough County because housing and development has taken away all of their habitat. So the future for this bird is very poor. That's not the Florida Scubdray. I don't know. That's the tern. This is a roseate tern. Back up. Another bird that needs these shore habitats. And I kind of show this because this was taken at high tide, and this is usually a beach. But this is what's going to happen to their nesting areas when this sea level rise comes up. And there's one of their little chicks. Now, one thing that we're doing, you notice how smooth that gravel looks? That's a roof top. So these birds will nest on Publix grocery store roofs. Publix is one of the few chains that still use gravel roofs. A lot of them use a foam roof. But that's a little chick that nested on a roof because they're running out of habitat. And this bird, the Arctic tern, it spends, I can't even show it on the map, in Antarctica. And you see these little dashed lines? That's its migratory path. It goes from Antarctic, the Arctic, and back twice a year. That's a lot of miles. There it is. No, that's I'm sorry, that was the previous one. This is a swallowtail kite. bird that's having a lot of trouble with Florida habitat loss. They like suburban areas. They spend their winters in the Andes Mountains. In fact, they've got about 40 of these birds tagged with radio transmitters, and they were able to track these birds all winter long and across the Gulf of Mexico into their nesting grounds in Central Florida. These birds are just gorgeous to see. They don't really flap their wings. They glide, and they take this big long forked tail and they just tilt it back and forth to move. And they feed, they're a bird eater. I know. They pluck baby birds out of the nest from the air. And they're one of the few birds that actually eat on the fly. They don't land and eat. So I kind of live out from Tampa, and we have swallowtail kites. We saw one the other day flying off, and mama and dad were screaming, and the baby was, and he was flying off. I had to pluck the baby right out of there. You know, that's the life cycle. But its habitat is going away. And so this bird is in real trouble. They're in the Orlando area too. And there he is sitting on the limb. Beautiful bird. You see how that tail is just turned? You'd never see him hardly flapping. One of my favorite birds. And you can see where he spends the winter. And they've got the 40 birds. There's a site, Swallowtail tracking site, where you can go on, and it's live real time as they track them. But they're having problems because they're actually spreading. It used to be just primary in Florida, but now they're getting them in other parts of the country because of the Florida habitat. They like open fields next to woods. So they hunt over the fields and woods together, and we're losing a lot of open fields. In August, you can go up near Ocala and some of those hay fields, and they'll have flocks of 300 or 400 of those in one field, and they'll go down 4 or 5 feet off the ground, and it's just a sight to see several hundred of these at one time. This is another bird. It's called a black-bellied plover, and he's got to have our natural habitat of the shores. They nest not on the shore exactly. They nest about 3 or 4 feet back the frac line. But what's happening because of the rising sea level, they're being pushed away, and they're losing their nesting habitat, all their natural habitats that Florida offers. And there it is in summer plumage. That's the same bird. Winter plumage, summer plumage. Beautiful bird. And there's a relative to it called the golden plover. And you can see its migratory path. They've had records of them. Ships, if you're on a cruise ship, you'll have to see one land on your cruise ship. But they need this Florida habitat to survive. Here's one of our hawks. I'm going to show you something interesting. Everybody ever seen this hawk before? It's one of our common hawks. Oops, wait ahead, too far ahead. Yeah. Okay. This bird is in real trouble right here. This is the female of this right here. Does anybody know what that is? It's the Everglades Kite. And you can imagine what's happened to its habitat. It needs our swamps. It needs our areas around Lake Okeechobee. It needs our areas like Lake Kissimmee. It needs the Everglades. Now, what's happening to that bird, because it's losing that habitat, it's spreading. We actually had 2 pair of nesting in Tampa, of all places. Orlando Wetland has a couple pair that is nested, but they're spreading out. They actually had a pair last year that nested in Gainesville. And we don't take that as a good sign. We think it's maybe a neutral sign because they're leaving their conventional habitats because that habitat is drying up and it's being developed. So they need those habitats, and they're birds of prey. Another bird is a broadwing hawk. don't know if I got a picture of it. It migrates through Florida by the thousands. In the fall, you can go to Marathon and see probably 5,000 or 6,000 of them in a day because they funnel. They come like this, just like my cursor. They glide down the Appalachian Mountains. They go down Florida. They do the Keys, and they go across like this, and they go to South America by the thousands. Everybody's seen these, maybe, or not. There's some in Orlando, and there's some in Kissimmee. I saw this bird the first time in 1974. There were 70 birds alive in the world. They were in Necedah, Wisconsin, and they spent the winter, and they went to Aransas National Wildlife. There's now about 1,000 of these birds because we developed habitat in Florida for these birds. This is the whooping crane, and we developed habitat in other parts of the country. So this bird is adapted to the habitat we created, and there's now pairs in Florida in 2 or 3 locations. So this is where we intervened, created some natural habitat that used to be here that went away and got some more back. Kissimmee Prairie, if you guys have ever been over there. And they're grazers. So I've been fortunate to see whooping cranes in 3 states. I saw Alabama, Florida, and Texas. Beautiful bird. Now you guys have seen the Sandhill Crane. This thing is about 1.5 feet taller than the Sandhill Crane. He's a lot bigger. And there's a pair of whooping cranes. This picture was actually taken in Alabama. You can see how brown and dead it is. He's about, I guess, 3.5 feet tall. Got to have this habitat. He lost a lot of his habitat, and we brought some of it back, but now they're wanting to take it away again. And you can see he has there's where they nest right there. That's Necedah. I forgot the name of this place, I can't pronounce it. And then the other place in Wisconsin, right in here, is another nest, these dark purples. But now they've found isolated, but the population's done really, really well. So here's a Sandhill Crane. Now, we get a lot of Sandhill Cranes. They love our prairies. They actually like the neighborhoods too. We've got Sandhill Cranes in our neighborhood, and you see one hit by a car every once in a while. But we have 2 populations of Sandhill Cranes. We have our resident ones, and then we have our migratory. If you go to Payne's Prairie, south of Gainesville, in the wintertime, you can see flocks of 3,000 or 4,000 Sandhill Cranes. But this habitat we have is required. They have to have these pastures and these fields to feed on. They're pasture, they're grazing birds. Unfortunately, some states have opened up Sandhill Crane hunting. Tennessee, Kentucky, the states that you would think, northern Alabama, some Georgia. And unfortunately, they've actually shot some whooping cranes, which is federally protected. And thank goodness our new administration got the law changed, because the previous administration had a law that said if you inadvertently killed a protected animal, you couldn't get penalized because you inadvertently did it. So they've changed that back. So what happens every year, birds come from Mexico and in these islands, and they gotta have our Florida habitat. If we didn't have our habitat, I don't know what would happen, because they can't go through Mexico because there's no habitat for them. So this is just some random pictures I took of birds that came from South America that landed in Florida. Magnolia warbler. It's a vireo, another kind. It's a cerulean warbler. So he's got a little worm there. Actually, that's not a worm. That's a mulberry. They love mulberries. And I'm not sure, is the mulberry native in Florida?
Non-native mulberries planted, but we do have native mulberry species in Florida.
Birds love them. Uh, unfortunately, mulberry trees aren't real strong and they break pretty easy. And they're really, but you can see he's got a, I'll show you a picture of here of another bird. There he is closer, and that's a mulberry. It's a black-throated blue warbler. That's a thrush eating the same thing, eating the mulberries. And that's a Cape May warbler. You can see now that's a fig, right? That's a strangler fig. And see, this one little tree, this bigger tree was probably 15 foot, 20 foot diameter. And there was like 200 birds in this one tree. We was watching them coming out of the sky, landing on this tree. Because all these little figs were ripe, it was just quite a sight to see. We had the photographers, we were fighting on position to get these pictures. I was 3 foot away when I took this picture. There's an orchard oriole. They like the figs, the berries. Now this is a western tanager. This is a bird that is in California. He got confused. He went to Brandon and was eating mulberries. And there's another scarlet tanager taken at Fort DeSoto. There's a prairie warbler taken at Fort DeSoto. Black and white warbler at Fort DeSoto eating the bugs off of our live oak tree. Another scarlet tanager. So he's got an insect there. Looks like a wasp. And this is a pretty cool picture. This is right in the middle of migration. There was this little mud hole. There's 4 species of birds in this mud hole. I was about 6 foot away. There's I want to see if I can point out. This is an orchard oriole, a Borton wall oriole, a rose-breasted grosbeak, and a blue grosbeak. That was probably the only fresh water, and those birds just got there. But they had the habitat. Black-throated green warbler, I was probably 4 foot from that bird. And then I scared him. And you can see they were eating the sea grape berries. There's a hummingbird. All these pictures I took in about 3 hours. There's indigo bunting eating the berries. Looks like he's got a wasp that vireo. There's a Baltimore oriole. They love the mulberries. Now, if you look, this is a rose-breasted grosbeak. I was about maybe 2 foot away from that bird. If you look at his bill is red, it's not really red. His bill is white like his breast. That's where he's been feasting on mulberries, but his breast is red. And he nests in Upper Canada. Wow, that's all I got. But so the birds come through. We have birds that live here that need our habitat. But the most important, I think, we need this habitat for the birds that pass through our habitat. So I'm open to any kind of questions.
Well, Rocky, thank you so much for that great tour of Florida birds who need some sort of habitat that we have. We don't have any questions in the chat so far. You know, I was wondering if you had any just like specific recommendations Florida-wide or at least Osceola County for plants that would you have to have in your yard for birds.
If I was going to pick one plant, firebush.
Firebush, yeah.
Firebush is just so awesome. And then my second would be beautyberry and then wild coffee. Those are the 3 best. I mean, and then elderberry is good too. But the thing you get with firebush, not only do you get the hummingbirds, you also get all the pollinators. I mean, we've got probably 10 firebushes, and they're just full of bees, native bees, and of course the invasive honeybees, and hummingbirds, and the birds, and the cardinals eat the buds. The butterflies are all over them, but yeah, firebush, native porterweed, if you could find it, sometimes it's hard to get, is good. That's our favorites, is all of those, you know. And it's a lot of the time it's hard to find this stuff. A lot of people plant the butterfly weed, but it's not native and it gets a lot of diseases. I would stay away from buying any plants at the big box stores. They put systemic poison in the dirt, and then the caterpillars and bugs and stuff get on the plant, and the birds eat it, and it takes about 3 or 4 years for that to get out of the system. Firebush is the best one, and wild coffee is good.
Is there any, are there any conservation issues that you're working on in the Tampa Bay area that you think that our Osceola County folks need to know about?
The biggest thing we have right now is they're wanting to build 56, which is a state highway, ends about 75. It's going to go all the way to Lakeland, and they're going to build a northern loop around Lakeland. You know, they have the Lakeland bypass now that goes around the south. We're working hot and heavy on that. Our water issue, and I don't know if you guys this is going to come up over there too. They got a thing called toilet to tap, where they're taking sewage water and treating it and going to inject it back on the aquifer. Lakeland's already approved doing that, and that's getting close to you guys. So we're working on that, and we want to the styrofoam, the plastics, and we have a fertilizer ban. It's semi-effective because you can go to the counties around us and buy it and still fertilize, which I don't know if you guys have a fertilizer ban or not.
No.
But you can't do it now because and we're working on Ready for 100. We're trying to get the city, Orlando passed Ready for 100. Try to get a certain date energy free. And Orlando passed that. There's 17 cities in Florida passed it. Tampa was ready to pass it when the legislation said they can't do it. So we've got a lot of issues we're working on. The water, the tree ordinance. We got a really nice tree ordinance in Tampa, and it got killed by the state legislators. As long as the arborist says you can cut it, you can cut it. Of course, that's how they make their living. So they're going to tell you to cut it. So we're fighting that. We've got so many battles going on, and it's tough. So what are you guys fighting over there? Same things?
Well, I mean, we've got a slight reprieve in the road through Split Oak Forest, which is what I've been working on for so long. You know, we don't have a conservation land funding program right now in our county, and we had
Really?
one, and it was really great, but it hasn't been funded for many years. I mean, it was funded, but the millage was decreased. Anyways, you know, the properties that it purchased were really great, but it really needs to be reauthorized. And
So what happened to the properties since
yeah,
that?
they're still authorized, but there's no current funding for new purchases.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
we're very lucky. We have 63,000 acres in Hillsborough County, and the voters, 85% have voted to keep funding that, and they've been funding, and they've been buying, and now a lot of the lands need work, but they said, do we want to, and I'm on that board, they said, do you want to spend money to buy land or do you want to do maintenance? And we all said, buy land. We'll put up fences and roads later.
Right.
And so it's interesting. I noticed your logo is you're the pine lily. I found on a Sierra Club hike 2 years ago, right before the pandemic, a whole bunch of pine lilies at the lower Green Swamp. It's so awesome.
Oh, yeah, we love them. We have a lot here in Osceola County.
Oh, really? We don't have many here. Someone told us it's kind of unusual to get them in Hillsborough County, which is the Tampa County. And then I did see a couple in Polk County, which I think is Lakeland, and it's part of the lower Green Swamp. So any other questions?
Yeah, no other.
I know it's
Go ahead.
I know it was slanted more towards birds, and but it all ties together, and we got to help them any way we can.
I mean, I would say, a good number of our members and our fans are planting specifically for birds. So, I mean, this is really good information.
Our whole yard is around birds and butterflies.
Well, I mean, no one else has popped in the chat for questions, so I guess I'll let you finish your Atlanta time.
Yeah, we're gonna just take it easy. So, and I can send you this slide if you want to put it somewhere. You're welcome to do that. We put the slide from the lady that came over. We got hers posted. So,
well, so the presentation is actually like being recorded.
Okay.
Yeah, so people will have access to the entire presentation as you gave it. So I think we should be okay without the slides.
And if anybody has any questions, you've got my contact information.
I do, yes.
Yeah. And then when things open up, we'll get back to Sierra Club has not authorized us well, they just did. So I was going to say when, but they have. If sometime you want me to come over and do an outing, lead birds, do a bird hike, I could do that if anybody's interested.
Yeah, that would be fun.
I do bird outings.
Okay.
And I do other kind of things.
Okay. We did have our first in-person field trip recently, and we're having another one on Saturday, but, mask up.
Yeah.
Yep.
We can't till after July. We can't have meetings yet, but we're hoping to do it soon. So we're planning our outings right now. We're in the planning stages now. So we're going to hit it hard because people are so anxious. People are tired of Zoom.
Yep. Yeah.
Myself included.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I stream all these meetings, so I can't wait till they get back in person. But, honestly, they'll probably ask me to stream them to the world anyway.
Well, we're going to do hybrid meetings.
Yeah. But that's like running 2 meetings at a time,
Yeah.
Because you have to run the in-person one and then you have to stream it to the world.
Yeah, we're going to do that because we're a pretty big county area-wise. So there's a lot of people that won't come to the meetings because it's too far to drive. So we'll let them view it like this. So I've done some things for the Boy Scouts where I taught some classes and they did a hybrid meeting and it worked really well. So, well, thank you very much. If you got any questions, you can send an email.
Okay. Yeah. So my email, Valerie@andersongeospatial.com. So Anderson, my last name, and then geospatial.com. So send me an email and I'll get you in touch with this guy, Rocky. And thank you everyone for watching. Thank you, Rocky, for your time and effort in this presentation.
It was great. I really enjoyed it.
Awesome. All right. And I'll hope to meet you again. Hope to meet you in person, actually, soon.
There you go. Okay. We'll talk to you later. Thanks.
Thank you.